Hello, and welcome back to It's a Very Exciting Time, a podcast by a UFO nerd and his tolerant friend. My name is Scott, and I've been fascinated by the phenomena my whole life.
And I'm Chuck. I'm an aerospace nerd and a tolerant friend.
I started this podcast because since 2017, there have been shocking revelations, from news of secret Pentagon programs to confirmed videos of astonishing craft. In a nutshell, now that we know the government has recovered non-human technology,
Or at least we will, after David Grusch's press conference.
that's right, it raises a natural question. If UFOs are real, what else? Suddenly, some of these other parts of the phenomenon that seemed unlikely are pulled into the realm of the possible.
And they may still be unlikely, but even if it's new science and not aliens, woo!
It's a very exciting time. Chuck's laughing because right before we recorded, I listened to the audio of us from last week, and I was like, man, we are not hitting the like woo with enough
Yeah.
emphasis. Like, it's very obviously we're both reading the word woo out of a script. Like, it's supposed to
Yeah.
be woo. It's a very exciting time. So I tried to
Yeah.
give it a little more juice this week.
Try to
How'd it go,
juice it.
Chuck?
Yeah, you juiced it. You juiced it good. I didn't hear any of it because Descript clipped it all out, but we'll see what happens.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Hey, so what are we talking about today? Did the third release come out?
Ooh, I got some bad news for you, buddy. Uh, not only did they not drop a third tranche of UFO files,
Thought we weren't allowed to
they
say that.
instead put up aliens.gov. And
Oh, they
aliens.gov
did.
is a horribly racist, offensive website about illegal immigrants, comparing them to like aliens sneaking over the border. It's really, really
No.
awful. And the community is in a bad way right now because everybody feels like we got rug pulled, right? Like we all kind of
Yeah.
got hyped about this cycle of UFO things, and they kept telling us there's going to be more. They're going to be coming out on a 2-week cadence. And not only did they not release more, they instead did this. And the aliens.gov
Huh.
site has a very like UFO abduction theme to it, which makes it
Yeah.
feel like all of the UFO files were actually just like setting the stage for this awful piece of shit. So,
Hmm.
uh,
Okay.
um, however, since we're talking about politics for a moment, it does remind me, if anybody has any complaints about our political viewpoints, we get a lot of
Hmm.
comments about that. You can feel free to email those concerns to our new intern, Dev. His email is dev-null@veryexcitingtime.com.
Yeah.
He'll take
That's
care of
great.
that for you. Yeah.
He'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad we hired Dev. It's been
Oh,
great.
yeah. Kid is phenomenal. I don't know how we got along without him.
I mean, he just gets through emails so fast.
It's incredible. Okay. I do have quite a bit of news to talk to you about, though. So let's get crack-a-lackin', buddy.
Okay.
Up first, very recently, in our own home state of Oregon,
Hmm.
UFO journalist Jeremy Corbell was on stage at the McMinnville UFO Festival, along
Oh
with
yeah, I
his
remember
mentor,
that.
legendary UFO journalist George Knapp, and their close friend, UAP whistleblower Dylan Borland. And
Oh.
Jeremy Corbell says, as a journalist, George and I have been exposed to certain things. Now, I talked to our lawyer in the hotel right before we came here. Now, this is the moment. If you've been watching Jeremy Corbell for a while, he's about to do something,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
he's
Anytime the
clarifying.
anytime the lawyer comes in, it's like, ooh, okay, this is gonna be fun.
Absolutely. So already, like, George Knapp is an old man, right? He's so used to Corbell at this point. Like, he's just kind of like twiddling his thumbs, waiting. Dylan Borland is kind of like, uh-oh.
Mm.
Uh, Corbell continues, he said, I talked with our lawyer in the hotel right before we came here. I was told by an ODNI agent that Dylan testified to the ICIG, the police of the intelligence agencies, that there is a UFO program and it is called Rubik's Cube.
Oh, wait, are Are our other hobbies crossing the stream? Like, we've
They
got our
sure
cubes
are.
right here. Amazing.
You'll
I can't
notice
wait to
that
hear.
Chuck's Rubik's Cube is solved and mine is not.
Well, some of us know how to solve it.
I do know how to solve it, Chuck. I finally learned. It only took me like 5 years. um, the whole time Corbell is talking, Borland is kind of leaning, like not recoiling, but like physically leaning away from him, looking super nervous. And as soon as Corbell says the name of the program, he leans back. He goes, "Wow," and like, like rubs his chin nervously. And the longer Corbell talks, the more uncomfortable he looks until he has fully leaned forward with his head in his hand. Like he looks so uncomfortable. Now, I want to be clear.
Okay. I want to rewind a little bit. I'm confused about all the names. I know Corbell and Knapp. Who's Dylan Borland?
Dylan Borland. Oh, Chuck, you had to call me on it. I get my UFO witnesses mixed up. Borland
I'm not the
is
only
the one who had a lot of retaliation that he suffered.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He
was
not
before Grusch?
Immaculate Constellation. No, he was after.
Oh, after Grusch. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's checking. Okay, so Borland is there while Corbell is talking.
Yeah.
To who? Oh, on
to
stage.
The audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Now,
I see.
We've heard a hint of this story before on Corbell and Knapp's podcast. They have done multiple interviews with Borland, and in one of them, Jeremy Corbell told this story. He didn't mention the name of the program, but he mentioned the idea that Borland's testimony is that he testified to the ICIG, similar to David Grusch, about, things that shouldn't have been happening. And he was retaliated against heavily. He was stuck in a no man's land of a bad program. In that call, Jeremy Corbell says that the ODNI agents called Corbell and basically tried to badmouth Borland. They said that he said all this racist stuff, and they just tried to paint him with a bad brush. But in the process of obviously trying to smear him, they also straight up said, while he's in the skiff, he said X, 1, Y, and Z. And Corbell's like, what? So Corbell, back on stage in McMinnville, says, that's what I heard from the ODNI. Now, they shouldn't be calling me and telling me what was described in a skiff, should they? I'm a journalist, so I listen. Project Rubik's Cube. Dylan, I'm not even going to look at you while I ask this. The whole audience starts laughing because of how nervous Dylan looks about the question he knows is coming. Have you ever testified to ICIG about a UAP program containing UAP called Project Rubik's Cube?
Wow. So I guess the question I have, it is a very funny mental picture to think about, like Dylan Borland, like escaping the scene, like just exiting camera right or whatever.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Borland had no idea this was coming. Like, what did he think was going to happen?
Borland has appeared in public with Knapp and Corbell repeatedly. He is a whistleblower, full stop. But he has also been very clear. There are some things I can't talk about. Just like we've heard from Elizondo and Grusch, there's a line I can walk up to, and beyond that, I can't say anything. And this is Corbell saying something that Borland has not said publicly. He is attributing words to Borland and asking him point blank, is this what your testimony in a classified setting was about?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Borland leans back and he kind of goes, all right, let me collect my thoughts. Now, he's laughing a little bit too. I want to be clear. Like, he looks uncomfortable, but he's not like feeling ambushed or attacked. It's just like, oh God, you had to do this to me. Fuck. He's clearly considering whether to answer the question. The room is practically silent, but you can very obviously hear over the audio 2 members of the audience go, no, and don't do it.
Are they saying don't collect your thoughts or don't say anything?
Don't say anything. This is a trap, right?
Okay.
Borland goes, I am not in a skiff. I am not going to jail. I can neither confirm nor
Hmm.
deny, but if you want me to answer that question, ask for amnesty for the whistleblowers, ask Congress and the executive branch to give it to us, and I'll answer that question gladly. And then he and Corbell fist bump.
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, what would you expect to have
yeah.
happened?
You weren't going to get confirmation, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
as close to confirmation as we're going to get.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So why is it called Project Rubik's Cube though? Like, I, I'm not seeing it yet.
Okay, this is one of these deep dive nerdy connections that I fucking live for.
Okay.
First of all, full disclosure, I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Like, nobody does. Is this even a real program? But this is not the first time we have heard Rubik's Cube in a UFO context.
Okay.
So, there's an interview out there with a guy named Skip Atwater, who is the former head of Project Stargate, which we've talked about on this show before. And if you don't remember, that's the Pentagon's remote viewing program. Hal Puthoff was heavily involved in this. This is 70s, 80s, 90s, like actual, honest to God, psychic intelligence research. Crazy
It is
stuff.
kind of interesting to think that Stargate the show was not so far off from that, right?
No.
Like,
yeah. It's been a long running theory in the UFO community that the UFO gatekeepers will regularly leak bits of information to the community and to Hollywood so that bits of the truth have been sprinkled in. And there's kind of two theories on this. One is it's a form of soft disclosure. At this point, everyone knows what a gray alien looks like. So when one appears on the news in 2027, we're not like, what the fuck is that? It's like, oh, hey, look, it's a gray alien.
yeah. Okay.
The other is it's a form of debunking. Like,
Sure.
the best kind of debunking is you mix a little bit of truth in with a whole lot of lies. Well, what's more of a lie than fictional Hollywood stories? So now anybody who tells a story about Stargate, they can go, oh, what, like the sci-fi show?
Yeah. And so I just Googled Project Rubik's Cube, and big surprise, the thing that came up was someone's Rubik's Cube project. Makes sense.
Skip Atwater, former head of Project Stargate, he's interviewed.
Okay.
And he says, it's hard to talk about dimensions, but I was standing behind an alien in a spacecraft. The implication here is he's remote viewing and he has found himself standing behind an alien in a spacecraft.
Okay.
And he said, the alien says, you shouldn't be here. And I said, I know. I realize this is a strange place. But before I go, could I ask you a question? And he said, okay.
So hang on. Okay, so the alien knows that he's there? Like,
so this is one of the weirder things from Project Stargate is one of the rumors is the real reason the CIA dropped remote viewing as a spy program is not that it was ineffective. It was effective. It was because the observers, the spies were observed by the aliens. If you project yourself into an alien base and the aliens can see you, well, does that mean the Russians are going to see us when we project into their nuclear submarines? Like, suddenly its value as a intelligence gathering apparatus is called into question. Anyway, this whole thing is so nerdy. And I know a lot of our viewers, including Chuck, are pretty skeptical about remote viewing, psychic stuff, Project Stargate. That's fine. But let's just rewind, right? So
so here's my question. What would you ask?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'm convinced that all of this stuff is tied to life after death. The existence of a soul and stuff like that. I think if I was like, you've got 5 minutes and you get one question, I think I would probably go straight to the heavy shit. Like, I don't really care whether the UFOs are real or what planet they're coming from. Like, is there life after death? Does consciousness continue? I don't know. It might be a wasted question. The alien shrugs like, we don't know either. Goodbye.
I mean, that would be an interesting result too.
Sure.
Um,
How about you?
I'm trying to think. I think I would want to know. I mean, one question is hard. I want to know so much
It's
more
really
than
hard.
like I want to hear a story.
Yeah.
Like I think I'd ask what their first memory was.
Interesting. Okay.
It's like I just want to know a little bit about them, not anything particular.
Have you
Anyways,
read a book series called Monk and Robot?
mm-mm.
Okay. First of all, highly recommend it. It's from the same
Okay,
author who wrote Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, one of my favorite books. Um,
okay,
but basically, this is a world where all of the robots in all of the factories around the world randomly became conscious one day
hmm.
and quit en masse. It wasn't
Okay,
violent. It wasn't a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
revolution. They were just like, yeah,
Just
we're
a
done. We're going to
walkout.
go live in the woods. And they
Hmm.
left.
Cool. I love
Nobody
that.
has seen a robot in hundreds of years. And, not to spoil the point of the book, the main character of the book, a T-Monk, runs into a robot. It's
Okay.
delightful. But the name of the robot that he meets is oh god, what was it? Spectacular speckled moss cap. And at one point he's
Okay.
like the mushroom? He's like, yeah, we're named after the first thing we see after we wake up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's such an interesting detail, right? Don't
It's
you want to
so
know that?
evocative, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Anyway, we've
yeah,
gotten
yeah.
so off track.
That's
Back
great.
to the aliens. So Skip Atwater, head of the remote viewing program, finds
Hmm.
himself in a UFO behind an alien. And he says, I know I shouldn't be here. Before I go, can I ask you a question? The alien says, yes. Atwater says, okay, how do you get from here to Alpha Centauri? We can't do that. The only thing we think about is I have to go really fast for a really long time. How is it that you can go to Alpha Centauri without any problem? And essentially he said, you wouldn't understand. And I said, I agree, that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, you've got an alien there and all you want is directions. Like, come on.
Uh, Atwater says, however, I know you have access to my mental thoughts. I mean, you're not talking to me with your mouth. Can you use what information I have in my head to try to explain it to me? First
Mhm.
of all, tip top, buddy.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Good prompting.
recognizing that it's not your job to solve the communication barrier. You're already
Yeah.
communicating with me. Put it in
Clearly, you got
toddler
a
terms.
leg
Explain
up.
it to me like I'm 5. Yeah.
ELA 5, yeah.
So the alien says, all right, imagine a Rubik's Cube, but not necessarily just the 6 sides. Just imagine the concept of a Rubik's Cube. So what you do to get to Alpha Centauri is you twist the cube.
No, yeah, okay. Of course, the old R U R prime U prime maneuver.
Of course, that old
Did
nugget.
that nugget? Did you know you were training for space travel when you picked up a cube? I didn't.
Surprise, the Rubik's Cube was seeded as a to detect
That's
who
right.
in the human population is inclined towards intergalactic travel.
Yes, I'm
Chuck has
in.
never been more prepared.
I'm not actually that good, so I think I'll be on like some freighter or something.
Yeah,
But
you'll be on the B team. Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, I don't know if that's why it's
Okay,
called Project Rubik's Cube, but I just
sounds
thought it
right.
was funny that there is this old interview floating out there where they
Hmm.
mention Rubik's Cube in the context of UFO navigation. And I think that's as logical a reason as any to think that might be the name of the program. If the program is
Sure.
something about reverse engineering and stuff, like, hey, here you go, dimensional folding, it works like a
Yeah.
Rubik's Cube.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're going to find this funny, but let's get weird
All right. Let's twist that cube, man.
because apparently secret government programs named after potentially psychic spy conversations with aliens wasn't weird.
It
Let's get
wasn't weird
weird.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Former head of ATIP, Lue Elizondo, who we've talked about a lot
Okay.
on this podcast, was
Love Lou.
recently interviewed by celebrity podcaster Jillian Michaels.
Okay.
And she starts the interview. She goes, where do we start? Should we start with an alien hybrid breeding program?
It's a strong start. I feel like you should start every interview that way and just keep doing that until someone's like, wait, what, you know?
Yeah, it's a compelling opening, you have to admit.
Yeah, it is.
Do you
It's
spring
good.
it on everyone? Like, do you ask the Pope about it?
I mean, clearly the papacy is
Obviously.
already indicated in what the 1945 UFO thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's get in there.
Okay, so before I get to Lue's answer, let me give a little context for this seemingly totally random question. A few weeks ago, Representative Matt Gaetz was being interviewed on a different podcast, and he
Okay.
said, I had somebody come and brief me who was in a military uniform, worked for the US Army, on the locations of hybrid breeding programs where captured aliens were breeding with humans to create some hybrid race that could engage in intergalactic communications.
Intergalactic communications, eh?
If you know what I mean, nudge, nudge, wink, wink,
Wink,
say no more.
wink. Exactly.
Gates continues, he said, this was a senior enlisted officer. He came into my office in a non-classified setting. I had members of my staff there, and what they explained is that the military ran a very secret program where aliens that were living were in forced breeding programs with humans that had been abducted from war zones and even the caravans of migrants.
Gross.
Yeah, super gross. Not to mention the whole like, oh, this is part of the whole caravan of migrants fantasy that the Republicans had for a while. Okay.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool.
So this is why I haven't brought this quote to you before. It's weird and salacious, but also kind of tied into weird Republican fantasies. I didn't really know what to think of it, but now it's tied into something.
Okay.
Gates says, now again, I didn't verify this. Okay, thanks, Gates.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
But what the whistleblower was telling me was that there were between 6 and 12 locations around the country where this happened, and what he wanted was for members of Congress to show up at the same time at all of these different locations so any of those activities could not be moved.
Smart.
Now that's interesting because this is something we have heard from Burlison. This is something we have heard from Grusch. This idea that the instant they get wind that someone's coming, they just relocate the program. So if you want to catch them, you have to do it unannounced. And Gates goes on.
Makes sense that there'd be like limited facilities that would have the right like security detail and whatnot to
to house live aliens and captured migrants.
Right.
But Gates doesn't dismiss this because of the difficulty of getting Congress people to go to a secure location. He says, and of course, it's a physical impossibility to get members of Congress to show up at 8 locations at one time. So that never occurred.
Yeah, checks out.
The whole interview is very strange. Gates is kind of chuckling the whole time. It's unclear if he's telling this in the context of, this is a story I was told and have reason to believe, or if he's telling it in the context of, you're never going to believe the shit I hear as a congressman.
Right. Yeah. Is this just part of his comedy set?
Yeah. Very, very strange interview. I really didn't think much of it when the quote came across my desk until Jillian Michaels asks Lue Elizondo about it. And Lue Elizondo responds very oddly to it. Now, we've been listening to interviews with Lue Elizondo for a long time now. He has there's a weird tension in Lue where he both has a tendency to kind of like bring things to you without really thinking about it. Like, here's a photo someone handed me 5 minutes ago. It looks like a UFO, huh? And actually it's a crop
turns
circle.
out it's fields.
But at the same time, he's very cautious about like, I'm not allowed to answer that question. I can go right up to this line and not beyond it.
Well, one of those gets him arrested. So
a true story. So anyway, it's very weird to have Jillian Michaels has clearly seen this interview with Matt Gaetz. She's got Lue Elizondo on the show. Hey, here's the UFO guy. Let's ask him about this.
Yeah.
You would expect Lue to be kind of, I don't know, hand wavy about it. Like, that's not really what we studied. We were more looking into military reports, yada, yada. Lue talks a lot, and he kind of rambles around about this.
Okay.
He says, now, as far as this notion of alien crossbreeding and hybridization, let me just preface this. When I was at the Pentagon at ATIP, I was a nuts and bolts kind of guy. So really, airframe, air integrity, material science, propulsion behind the vehicles involved, not so much the occupants.
Sure.
What Gates is referring to is something called, in the vernacular throughout the UFO community, MILABs. And this is an acronym, MILAB.
What is that? I've never seen that.
It is short for military abductions. And
But
this is
yeah.
a weird part of the community. So there's
Okay.
lots of people who believe that, for example, gray aliens are abducting humans for reasons. Usually it's viewed as like a science experiment or sample gathering. Some people are like, oh, they've got like a genetic deficit and they're coming home to sample
Right.
our genes to enhance themselves. Some people are saying it's a breeding program and the goal is hybridization. Some people are like, I don't know, they just, tag us and bag us like we do to cattle in the wild or something. But
wouldn't that be like a lab or something? What's a mill
that
lab?
it is, yeah. So just that's normal abduction. Military abduction is kind of the next level up. And this is alleging there are a bunch of abductees who claim to have seen human military personnel on these ships. They get abducted,
Okay.
they get brought up, and they come through. And not only are there gray aliens, there's a bunch of like apparently American soldiers walking around in jumpsuits and like interacting with the aliens. And anyway, it's a weird part because it clearly implies that the aliens are doing this not only with our permission, but actively in collaboration with us.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, Lue said the MILAB word, which is very weird. He goes on to say, this would suggest that there's been a long-standing agreement or understanding between us and our friends from out of town that have allowed us to work with whatever these are in a cooperative agreement. In exchange for that, supposedly they would have access to certain human specimens biologically in order to test. I have to say, first and foremost, I heard about that while I was at the Pentagon, but I was not privy to the specifics of that. From my understanding, that relationship began, if it's true, sometime in the 1950s and has continued.
So that's a pretty, that's an interesting answer because it's not, I can't confirm or deny.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I heard that rumor while I was at the Pentagon, but I don't know anything about it.
Well, and not just I heard the rumor at the Pentagon, but he has told stories about things he heard at the Pentagon that he does not believe. And he is vaguely dismissive of them. One of the things he talks about is multiple people coming up to him and telling him that it was all demonic. And he viewed this as an attempt to sabotage his team and prevent him from looking into it. And he does not support that theory. And here he's kind of like, yeah, I heard that. I can't say if it's true or not, but it is something I heard at the Pentagon. That's weird.
Yeah. Interesting.
Now,
I mean,
Luke keeps going. We're not even halfway through his answer. Okay. He says, I have met several individuals, former intelligence officers for the Air Force and other services, who swear by it and actually say they've had encounters with UAPs and have seen military personnel in and around the vehicles, as if very nonchalant, as if it was supposed to be. I've had plenty of individuals tell me verbatim that the military is far more involved in this topic than anyone really knows. There are cases which seem rather interesting where you have UAPs potentially being escorted.
Like by fighter jets or trucks?
Yeah,
or
helicopters, fighter jets. Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Now, you may have noticed something here. He didn't say anything about hybridization.
No, yeah.
He answered the question with a perhaps related but different theory about military abduction. Now, why are military abductions happening? Maybe for a hybridization program, but technically these aren't the same thing. What's happening here? A little bit of context, maybe. Former CIA analyst John Ramirez, who is a guy that probably deserves his own episode, and I've been putting it off forever. Basically, if you've ever heard anything about like 2027, a lot of that is from John Ramirez.
Okay.
4 years ago, John Ramirez gave an interview and he said, hybridization, that's the word that Lue Elizondo can't say, that everyone in the Pentagon is expecting him to say someday. So John Ramirez is flat out saying Lue knows about hybrid stuff and is not allowed to talk about it.
That makes sense. So he can talk around it, but he can't say that word. That's interesting.
Yeah. So let's cut back to Lue Elizondo now. Still in the process of answering the question about alien hybridization projects.
Mm-hmm.
Says, let's get back to the question about alien hybrids. I have to be careful with going into any type of speculation about hybridization or any type of scientific study or research because that was not my forte. What I will say is there are people out there that swear by it. There are people who have been in the military and intelligence officials that have told me, who I have no reason to question their credibility. They've never lied to me, certainly, but I don't have firsthand knowledge of that hybridization or forced hybridization.
So
it's a sort weird answer.
Yeah. So it's sort of like a little grushy, like third hand. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
But it hasn't, I'm guessing these weren't on official reports. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to say even that. These are just rumors in the hallway.
Now, there's a little more context from another recent interview he gave to Liberation Times. And, Chris Sharp, the journalist, kind of raises, hey, what was up with this weird hybridization talk?
Yeah.
And Lue says, there were people in my organization that were definitely focused on it, he says. I'm going to make an assumption here that Lue does not say. He's talking about either Eric Davis or Hal Puthoff. Whenever Lue talks about weird science, he's talking about Hal Puthoff or Eric Davis. Yeah. They're great guys, but definitely they were the ones where Lue is like, I don't know, man, not my thing. I care about the craft. Yeah. They were the ones like, no, we care about this shit.
Let's get into it. Yeah.
Let's get weird.
Let's get weird.
So Lue says, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They were convinced that there was some sort of interference, if you want to call it that, in human evolution at some point in the past. Whether that's a genetic genome that's been changed or purposely mutated, or that's some sort of influence, I don't know. That was never my area of expertise, and I'm only repeating what I heard.
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
It's easy to speculate about things that were in the very distant past, or I don't know. Yeah.
I think the main thing, and you've already hit the nail on this, this is a lot of talking for him to say, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
It feels to me, reading between the lines, like he's pretty certain about it and has been explicitly told, but doesn't feel like he can say it. So he has to kind of dance around and be like, well, there's reasons to believe, but I can't, don't attribute it to me, but yeah, it's out there.
I mean, maybe my Kremlinology is not good enough, but to me, it doesn't sound like he really believes it, but he has heard a couple people talking about it an awful lot at the lunchroom. And
I just think he would give a shorter answer if that's all it was. If he's like, yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
One last note on this, in response to this weird Jillian Michaels interview, and in particular the alien hybridization claims, UAP journalist Walter Kern responded on Twitter. He said, my sources tell me this is no joke, and highest level briefings have been held all the way to the top, presumably on the topic of hybridization and abductions.
Yeah, I guess which top is the question. Was it the president or was it someone else?
I mean, that's always the question in this topic, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
cool.
Weird opening that's weird. To the show. We're 30 minutes in. We've talked about hybrids.
Yeah.
Let's do a quick lightning round because I have a couple of a few quotes from people that are just like little hits on ongoing topics that we've talked about that maybe don't deserve a whole section on their own.
Sure.
First of all, there's something that happened a while ago that's always kind of bugged me, which is David Grusch testified to Congress, and when someone pushed him on what he meant by non-human, he kind of hedged his bets. He's like, we don't know that they're extraterrestrial. We don't know that they're from another planet. One possibility is they're interdimensional. Representative Luna latched onto that word like a dog with a bone. In many, many interviews, she said, we've been told they're not extraterrestrial, they're interdimensional. And everybody's like, has she been told that? Or did she just take what Grusch said as a statement of fact? And we never really had any context. And I don't want to give her any grief about it because I don't know why she's saying that, but I always kind of like pushed it aside. Well, anyway, she gave an interview recently, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, when asked what she thinks UFOs are, says, the one thing that we got in a briefing from the FBI and one thing that the whistleblowers have said to us, these are scientists that have come into SCIFs to brief us who had worked for the government or were contractors. They don't believe that they operate in a realm that we can understand currently. So the term they use is interdimensional. This is used repeatedly by the witnesses.
Maybe. Sounds a little bit like a misunderstanding to me, but
absolutely. The thing that I think is critical is hearing her explicitly say this is not just something she's heard from Grusch. She has heard from multiple other witnesses. Now, that doesn't mean that it's true or that this is the right answer, but it does satisfy my curiosity that this isn't just her misunderstanding something David Grusch said once offhand.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, it could still be like she could have it in her brain, and now that she has that lens, she's seeing it everywhere.
Yeah, totally. Or she's going to these scientists like, could it be interdimensional? And they're like, yeah, I guess. She's like, aha.
Sure, why not? Yeah, exactly. So she doesn't strike me as, with
really
Grusch.
Scientific minded.
Yeah, but like with Grusch, I expect that, if pushed, he could pull out the receipts. And
100%.
with Luna, I feel like that's not the case, but I don't know.
Yeah. I'll remind anybody, political opinions, you can send to our intern Dev at devnull@veryexcitingtime.com.
Love you, Dev.
Love you, Dev. Representative Burlison, we talked last time about how he had sent a letter to the MIT lab and demanded a particular video they had. And he had talked at the time about this group of government science contractor companies called FFRDCs, which have like a weird level of funding and classification that would make them kind of an ideal place to hide stuff. He has kept that train rolling. Defense Scoop reports the MITRE Corporation, that's an acronym, I don't know what it stands for, MITRE, Corporation confirmed that insiders are reviewing its archives to comply with a recent production request from Representative Eric Burlison, who pressed the not-for-profit organization for dozens of assets that would reveal whether it currently has or previously possessed information on unidentified anomalous phenomena and associated unexplained technologies. A member of Burlison's team told Defense Scoop that the letter was informed by, quote, advice from many whistleblowers, disclosure advocacy organizations, and those working at FFRDCs. So, not just Grusch, multiple witnesses, including insiders.
Yeah, that's cool. I know nothing about MITRE, and I'm wondering if it's the same lab that did the studies on AI effectiveness recently. Now I want to dig into that and find out.
Yeah. Representative Burlison tweeted, MITRE is now moving to comply with my formal demand for UAP records dating back to 1930. For anybody who's been paying attention, 1930, because of the rumors we have heard about the UFO crash in Magenta, Italy in 1933. Right. Burlison continues, my letter requires MITRE to tell Congress what it knows, what it holds, what it has held, what it has transferred, what it has destroyed or was directed to destroy, and which federal sponsors or classification authorities control any responsive records. It asks them to preserve everything, designate a senior official, and produce all unclassified records within 45 days. If the Pentagon hid UAP materials in private contractor networks, the American people deserve to know.
Yeah. So it's only producing unclassified records. I feel like, aren't they all classified though? Isn't that the whole problem?
Uh, is it only Oh yeah, produce all
Well, yeah.
unclassified records. Yeah. That's a good question. I think the meat of this question is tell us what you know, hold,
Yeah.
have held, transferred, and destroyed. Um,
I think
the
destroyed is so
records may be
interesting.
classified, but you still have to tell me that they exist and that
Yeah.
you held them and under what qualifications you held
Oh.
them. So
Oh, I see. Yeah.
the thing that I love about Burlison is this reads like a request that was very, very carefully and intentionally crafted. This is not a
Yeah.
Representative Luna or Representative Burchett. Tell us everything you know, dadgummit. Like,
Yeah.
this is an informed, I talked to my
Yeah.
lawyers, like, you're not weaseling out of this. You have 45
Hmm.
days to fork over the goods. Like,
Yeah. These are the
I
file
love watching
names.
this
Like,
man
yeah.
work.
Yeah. He's like the FOIA guy, except way more informed.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's pretty awesome.
Now, another topic that has been all over the community, a little less in later days. We've briefly touched on the idea of the missing scientists. And this started when General McCasland disappeared, and people tied it to a variety of disappearances and deaths, natural or otherwise, of a group of scientists over like 5 or 6 years who are in various ways tied into the national defense apparatus.
Okay.
With the implication being these scientists are being either abducted or offed for what they know ahead of disclosure.
Sure.
Jeremy Corbell tweeted, "It's now common knowledge that whistleblowers, scientists, and individuals directly involved in legacy UFO programs, someone who have handled material and specimens," he's quoting, I'll explain that in a second, "have mysteriously vanished or died under suspicious circumstances. There is an active FBI investigation underway of the credible and concerning cases. Not all are." Now, here's why I like this quote. I have resisted talking about the scientists because, as I mentioned the first time we brought this up, when you look at this big list that the community has compiled, it seems pretty clear to me that an awful lot of them are just totally mundane. And we've talked about the weird numbers that you get when you talk about statistics in a large group.
Yep.
Scientists who work in the national defense apparatus is a large pool of people.
It's a lot of people. Yeah.
How many people in any given group of a given size disappear, are abducted, are killed, or die in
Within
a
two
certain
years.
span of time, right? Like,
Like that's a lot.
I'm not convinced this is a statistically anomalous number to begin
Right.
with. And a
Yeah.
lot of the deaths seemed pretty explainable. Now, of
Yeah.
course, if you're conspiracy minded, well, that's what
Of
they want
course
you
they
to
are.
think. That just means
Yeah.
they did a good job.
Right. Yeah.
But it meant I was hesitant to be like, oh, there's a thing happening. Scientists are popping off like flies left and right. What I'm relieved to hear Jeremy Corbell saying here is active FBI investigation, and they're not looking at every single one of the scientists that the community has raised. But
Right.
apparently, the FBI considers some of these cases worth further attention. That
Sure.
feels like the right response to me. It's
Yeah.
still unclear whether anything will come of it, and it is very unclear whether it is in any way tied to aliens. For example, if these scientists are all tied to national defense, I think it's a lot more likely it's a foreign spy network that's involved, like Russia or China, than aliens.
Sure.
But whatever, right?
Yeah.
Corbell says this is known. FBI is looking into it. Some of the cases are credible and concerning. Great.
Yeah.
He then links to a quote from David Grusch. Now, this quote is from Jeremy Corbell's documentary called Sleeping Dog. Somebody else technically made this, but it sure feels like Jeremy Corbell made a documentary about what an awesome UFO journalist he is. I haven't watched it. What I've heard is it's a little insufferable. If you, like me, find Corbell to be just a little bit grating, like without the moderating influence of George Knapp holding him back a little bit, he can come on a little strong. But in this documentary that I haven't watched, there is a quote from David Grusch, our good boy, who says, quote, "There's coworkers and friends of mine that worked on that program for years. They were not hazed. They were not tricked. They literally worked on the material and the specimens and all that. And that was kind of common knowledge that people mysteriously vanish from the program, never to be seen again." So that's not David Grusch directly addressing the missing scientist thing, but it's kind of leaning into the idea that it's not unheard of in the lore and everything for this idea that the program itself might disappear you, either because they worried you might go public or you were just in the wrong place, wrong time. But for whatever reason, like, this is not a safe program to work on. And people working in these programs don't tend to happily retire, is the kind of community belief. And here's David Grusch supporting that.
Do you think it's possible that they're going into some equivalent of like witness protection?
I think that's one possibility. Another more disturbing possibility is they're going into clean house mode. Shit's about to pop off. The president's going to disclose. Time to tie up some loose ends.
Maybe.
But of course, who knows? This is the problem.
Yeah.
I've said this many times. The instant you open the door in your head to the government might be misbehaving, which is demonstrably, factually true in many cases, not just the UFOs, it is very hard to know at what point is this particular claim about the government misbehaving unbelievable. And there are many, many cases like this where you find out about shit the CIA did that if you just told me about this over dinner, I'd be like, "Oh, you're a crackpot." And like, no, that's a real thing that happened. So where do you draw the line? It's very, very hard not to slip into conspiracy thinking at all times. And I try really hard to resist it. This is one of those things where I'm like, you know what? I will acknowledge it's a possibility and I'm not going to dismiss it out of hand, but I'm not ready to like go down the rabbit hole and be like, clearly they're off in all the scientists.
Yeah. I have an article to send you later, but one of the quotes in it was basically when a generation doesn't have an enemy to struggle against, it struggles against itself. And I think there's some interesting things going on right now.
But the source of that
later.
Quote Fight Club?
No, it's
very similar philosophy expressed in Fight Club.
No, it was a New York Times op-ed piece, but it was a quote from some other book that I don't remember.
Cool. Yeah. All right, final lightning round item. David Grusch has chimed in on Immaculate Constellation.
Ooh.
This is a different whistleblower's whole thing that they were poking around in secure files and found an improperly unclassified document that described a program called Immaculate Constellation that exists to sequester UFO knowledge from government networks before anybody can see it. We've done several episodes on it. It's really interesting. David Grusch has never chimed in on it, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Someone asked him about it, and he said, "I have to be very careful about discussing that code word."
So it was a code word.
Yeah, it was an old National Security Council activity, and I know how it was controlled. So here's one of the loopholes they use. Now, he doesn't say anything about the program, but he does discuss something that we've talked about repeatedly: how classified special access programs work. And our understanding, based on what people have told us, is that there's a special access program just means this is a program with a bigot list, right? Not everybody is, you don't have a need to know about this. Those can be like off the books, which means they're an unacknowledged special access program. But even unacknowledged special access programs still have to be reported to the Gang of Eight. So the 8 most senior members of Congress are required to know about this stuff. Now, there's a whole other thing here, which is they don't have to be proactively told, but if the Gang of Eight
Sure.
asks about it, they have to be answered. But if they
Mm.
don't know to ask, anyway, it's a whole thing. We've
Yeah.
talked about it a lot. But part of Grusch's whole claim is this stuff was being improperly hidden from
Sure.
even the Gang of Eight. That
Yeah.
there is a use for waived, unacknowledged special access programs, but even those the Gang of Eight should be read in on, and they weren't be.
Right.
That was the core of his complaint.
Right. Yeah.
So Grusch says, here's one of the loopholes they use. White House special access programs. There's something called covert access programs. Those are the programs reported to the Gang of Eight. You know, that's like assassination stuff. Other things the government doesn't acknowledge. But there's a way to develop a White House special access program that is non-covert action. White House Special Access Program, if you look at the law there are no reporting carve-outs or requirements to tell the speaker or the majority leader or anything like that. And so that was one of the tricks of the trade, was burying it over at the Department of Energy, but keeping it in these non-covert action programs that 5 people on the National Security Council know about and the president at one time. So this is the first time I've ever heard this.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. Like we know from David Grusch and many others that the people in these programs don't believe they are breaking the law. By their understanding of
Sure.
how the security procedures work, the president does not have a need to know. The members of Congress do not have a need to know. It's like these 5 people who effectively operate unaccountably. Now, you can think that's right or wrong, but the people in these programs believe it is legal. This is the first time I've seen someone nod at a possible legal apparatus that would allow you to think, no, the requirement to disclose to the Gang of Eight doesn't apply to us because we're not covert action.
Right. Yeah. Do you think, is there a difference between a White House SAP and a different SAP? Are they all White House SAPs?
Unclear to me. And part of the problem is, I know that you and I kind of do the same thing here, which is I think of the Pentagon as being different than the White House. And it is, but technically it's all executive branch. You know, like everything in the government is either executive, judicial, or legislative. So if it ain't Congress and it ain't judicial, it's executive. That means ultimately the White House is in charge of everything at the Pentagon. That's not how it works in practice, yada, yada, but it does mean that it's complicated to discuss some of this stuff. So I read that quote as written. If Grusch is specifically calling this out as a White House special access program, I don't know if that's different from, you know, a military special access program or an intelligence community special access program, or if this is all just, you know, synonyms.
Okay.
Okay, so our next topic, now that we're done with our lightning round, continuing rumors that the White House is considering public disclosure. This is one of those things, like these rumblings just aren't going away. So despite the fact that we don't have a UFO file drop this week, we are continuing to hear these rumors that they're building up to something. So up first, we've got UAP investigative journalist Ross Coulthart.
Ooh, nice.
He says, I know from my own sources they have absolute, categorical, wipe the floor evidence that shows beyond any doubt whatsoever that we are indeed being visited by non-human intelligences. I'm hearing it from people inside the administration that the Trump administration is indeed soliciting advice about how to tell the public that we're not alone. There are consultations taking place with spiritual leaders. I'm now able to confirm that. There was some speculation a couple weeks ago about a group of pastors, but it turned out that wasn't directly related to the White House. But there are religious leaders that have been consulted by the White House. I am aware of people in the administration who have reached out.
Oh, good. So it's all the Protestant organizations are, I'm sure, well accounted for.
Yeah, something, man. There is one bit of pushback I will give on this, which is, and this next quote is going to lean into this a little bit. There's a difference between someone from the White House talked to me and the White House talked to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to kind of hand wave that difference away, but if someone who happens to work at the White House reaches out to me, not because somebody told them to, but because they wanted to on their own, that's
Mm-hmm.
not an official, like the White House directed them to do this. And that might be what we're dealing with here. But what Ross is hearing
Mm.
is contact from the White House to religious leaders. And we've been hearing this rumor for a while now.
Right. Okay.
Our next quote is from Jeremy Corbell. Officials from the White House and the Department of Defense have, in official capacity, sought my counsel on communication strategy and terminology, specifically in preparation for a potential formal announcement by President Trump regarding UAP reality and non-human intelligence. These consultations took place over the past 6 months via video conference with multiple communications officials who wanted to be the most informed person in the room when disclosure planning begins. They don't yet know how far the president is willing to take this. They're preparing for a range of outcomes. That preparation is real and it's underway.
I mean, I'm interested to, God,
It's hard to
is
know,
he allowed
right?
to talk about that? Or maybe it's fine. Wow.
Corbell's whole vibe is kind of like, stop me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
literally do anything to prove I'm not allowed to talk about this because, call my bluff, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's what I will say. Corbell explicitly says in official capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, what does that mean? Because what he describes is people in the press department who would prepare for releases. Literally, their job is to be ready in case the president wants to say something. And with a
Sure.
president like Trump, who's a bit of a wild card, I imagine their job is a little more wide ranging. And if you see the president is continuing to talk about UFO stuff and they're dropping UFO files, and you think there's
Maybe we
even a
should find
remote
out.
possibility someone might ask you to write a speech announcing alien life, yeah, I might reach out to some of the leaders in that field and ask, hey, if I was going to talk about this, what are the words to say and not say and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Is that an official communication from the White House? Does that indicate the White House is planning disclosure? Or does that indicate a press person is doing their job?
Right.
It's really
I don't know.
hard to say, and I don't blame anyone for interpreting this in either direction. It is absolutely ambiguous. What I will say is someone reached out to the Pentagon and they said, we have no records of official communications with Jeremy Corbell.
Perfect. Yeah.
Representative Burlison, speaking at Lue Elizondo's tour event in Dallas, Texas. By the way, Lue Elizondo is touring the country right now and doing a speaking tour, and he's got special guests everywhere. He is talking in Portland either this week or just a few days ago.
Are you going?
Like right down the street from me. No, because tickets were like $50 a pop. And I'm kind of strapped at the moment. No, it's fine. I didn't really have time anyway. But I'm kind of kicking myself.
We've got money in the band fund.
Okay, I will keep.
This is why they give us Patreon money. It's like, it takes about a year to acquire $50, but it's there.
Burn a year of income on hearing Lue speak.
Yeah.
So anyway, Lue Elizondo, he's in Dallas, Texas, and one of his guests is Representative Burlison. That's great. Now, we do not have the direct quote, and it kills me because I try really hard to get actual sources for the quotes that I give on this show and not do hearsay and rumor. Our show notes are very detailed. I've always got links out to the things that I say. In this case, the quote just doesn't exist, but multiple attendees, including Twitter user JiggyNut, report that Representative Burlison said that White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller reached out to Burlison to discuss amnesty for UAP whistleblowers, and Burlison proposed a 60-day window for those with information to come forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
can he give amnesty? Is that a thing?
I mean, in theory, yes, the White House can absolutely give amnesty. They're the head of the executive branch. This is the thing that everyone has been asked for. This is what Dylan Borland asked for at the top of the thing. He said, "Get me amnesty, and I will talk."
Okay.
There's basically three options moving forward. One is nothing changes. There is no disclosure. Everything stays secret and locked up. Another is disclosure happens, and the common understanding is that illegal things have happened. Now, those illegal things might include things like disappearing witnesses and murdering people and threatening people, or they might be more mundane, like, you know, a weird form of tax fraud and not telling the Gang of Eight about what you're supposed to do. But the point is, broadly speaking, almost everyone agrees crimes have been committed in the course of this cover-up.
Sure.
If disclosure happens, we have to deal with that. And there's two options. One is blanket amnesty of some sort. Okay, you did it. You thought it was legal. If you come forward and tell us what you know, there will be no legal consequences. That's kind of what Burlison's saying here. 60 days, witnesses come to us, you won't be held accountable for it. The alternative is a Truth and Reconciliation Committee like they had in South Africa at the end of apartheid, where you're getting summoned in front of the court and we're not interested in applying criminal penalties to everybody, but the truth is coming out whether you want it to or not. So amnesty appears to be one of the things that's getting floated. Ross Coulthart was asked about this, this thing that Burlison said at Lue's event. And he said, what I thought was most significant about this was that Stephen Miller, the deputy chief of staff for the White House, and somebody who's very close to Trump, Burlison is saying that Miller reached out to him. So basically, Burlison floated this idea of amnesty previously, and Miller is thinking about it. Now, the fact that the White House deputy chief of staff is thinking about this, actually mentally engaged with this subject matter, I think is incredibly significant. That, to me, was the biggest positive I took away.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. But again, that's not the White House officially doing a thing. This is a deputy chief of staff. It is, yeah. But still, it's someone doing their job well.
Absolutely. Coulthart continues, he said, what Representative Burlison is proposing is this 60-day window for insiders with knowledge of or involvement in UAP crash retrievals, reverse engineering, or related programs, and that they can feel comfortable about coming forward safely and providing information. This was framed as a potential mechanism to encourage disclosures while offering protections aligned with broader efforts to encourage and advocate for UAP transparency under the current administration. I want to pause for a moment.
Sure.
So I mentioned the idea of amnesty in the sense of you're confessing to crimes. The other aspect of this is whistleblowers like Dylan Borland, who are saying, I want to tell you what I know, but I have an NDA and they will literally put me in prison.
Right.
Amnesty here for tell the public and your NDA will be waived in this window.
Right. Yeah.
Coulthart continues, he said, this confirms what I'm being told privately, that the White House is wrestling with a decision about whether or not to disclose.
Yeah. You know, what it strikes me about this is it feels a little bit like the prisoner's dilemma. If everyone stays quiet, then we have no problems.
Yeah. And if even one doesn't, the whole house can't come down.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's interesting how you break that. And I don't know if amnesty is enough. But
maybe not. I think at this point, Congress is trying to find ways to get these whistleblowers to open up because they are hearing over and over again, I want to talk. I am legally not allowed to. You have to get me some air coverage here.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Yeah. So I'm going to close on some hopeful news. We did not get a UFO drop this week. That doesn't mean we'll never get one again, although the pairing of that with aliens.gov was a real gut
Real
punch.
disappointment. Yeah.
But, you know, fingers crossed there'll still be another drop, or maybe just full-on disclosure. Who the fuck knows? But in the
Who knows?
meantime, our good boy is not waiting around. The Associated Press says a bipartisan group of high-level officials and civilians will convene on the steps of the U.S. Capitol on Tuesday, June 9th at 1 p.m. to issue a call to action on behalf of the American people.
Ooh.
The event will feature remarks from Representative Eric Burlison, Representative Jared Moskowitz, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, Representative Tim Burchett, with additional participants to be announced. It will be hosted by investigative journalist Leslie Kean and documentary filmmaker James Fox. Congressional representatives are expected to rally around passage of the UAP Disclosure Act, a formal path towards full transparency, strengthening whistleblower protections, and calls for foreign governments to join the effort.
Yeah. So does that... We're still trying to get the UAP disclosure. Was UAPDA the thing?
Yep.
Okay, so we're still trying to
this
get that
was
going.
Chuck Schumer's bill from 3 or 4 years ago now that has been... It technically passed the first year, but they basically gutted 80% of it. And they've been trying to repass the full bill every year since and completely failing. But this was the one that would create the Presidential Review Board that would be in charge of going over all the UAP records and acting with a presumption that all of them should be disclosed unless there are real compelling national security reasons to redact part of it. And it was going to be this kind of civilian-led board that was going to include like historians, economists, religious figures. It wasn't just going to be intelligence figures. It was like genuinely considering this from the perspective of the human population. How will this information affect people?
Yeah. So who's going to be there? Who are the additional participants?
So Ross Coulthart says that Chuck Schumer is supposed to be there, which makes sense if they're talking about the UAPDA. That's his bill. But more importantly, quoting AP again, UAP whistleblower David Grusch, a highly credentialed former intelligence officer who has testified under oath before Congress, will discuss specific UAP and non-human intelligence-related evidence. I want to pause and emphasize that. He will discuss specific evidence that he encountered in deeply classified channels. Grusch will explain why these records should now be reviewed and publicly released, consistent with legitimate national security protections. Quote, President Trump now has a historic opportunity. This press conference is about moving from testimony to action. Let the American people judge the facts for themselves, said Grusch.
It's a good Trump bait right there.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's really smart.
Yeah, journalists... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, so that's the AP, which generally is considered to have a pretty high bar on articles, right?
They're a well-regarded mainstream publication that tries real hard not to have bias.
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting to see that. All right,
for
cool.
Sure. Journalist Chris Sharp of Liberation Times posted on Twitter, Dave is strategic. He only speaks if he has something important to say.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That sounds exactly like what we saw of him, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Ross Coulthart, the journalist who introduced us to David Grusch, was asked about this, and he said, yeah, I've spoken to David, and he's being coy. He's telling me that he is going to expand on what he's said previously, and I hope that means an expansion on the revelations of what he has to reveal about what he discovered firsthand about the legacy crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
Yeah, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's killing me that we're recording this on Sunday and in like 48 hours
Tuesday.
This is going to be happening, but what are you going to do?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we can distract you with something else because the Lue Elizondo thing is tonight. So
yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's been a weird couple of weeks. Like, I
Yeah.
think I jinxed us last week where I was like, if this keeps happening every Friday, our show is set. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I
And
mean,
then I got up
that's
on Friday and like, no UFO
nope.
drop. Like, oh no.
I mean, it was even worse, like aliens.gov drop. Like,
So
gross.
annoying. But yeah, this was a good show. I feel good about the information we got. The
Yeah.
hybrid interview program with Lue is so freaking weird. Getting a
Yeah.
program name out of Borland is really weird. The
Yeah. It's a
ongoing
lot of stuff.
rumors that the White House is about to disclose, and we got our good boy going up
Hmm.
on the podium again on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I I remain cautiously optimistic, despite
Yeah.
not getting a third batch of UFO files.
Well, so if it's exciting, are we recording on Wednesday? Or are we going to wait until the
Probably
weekend?
not. Like, it
Okay.
would have to be pretty groundbreaking for us to record in the middle of the week. Our timing
Okay.
is pretty tight. But yeah, there's always a possibility. If Grusch is like, this is my friend Bob, he's a gray from Zeta Reticuli, like, yeah, you better believe we'll be
Yeah.
recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But if David
Okay.
Grusch is like, it is true what you've heard,
Mm,
that could probably
yeah.
wait.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. I'm
Yeah.
honestly, I'm hoping for a late night call from Scott, like, hey, we got to record tomorrow. But we'll
100%.
see.
It won't be too late night. The press conference is going to be the middle of the day, so you'll know
Oh,
before your
well.
workday is over.
Okay. Oh, right. And they're all East Coast. I forgot.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be lunchtime for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
All right. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us on Very Exciting Time. You can find show notes and more on our website, veryexcitingtime.com, as well as links to our Discord and social media accounts.
And if you'd like to support the show, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/veryexcitingtime or grab some t-shirts from veryexcitingtime.com/merch.
That's right. And Chuck, as always, my wife thanks you for listening to me talk about UFOs so she doesn't have to.